Hey gang, it's JC and this is your Daily Dose for Thursday, October 14th, 2010, a cooperative venture with Mind Active in beautiful downtown Brentwood. Archives, top of the page, Eye Candy Archives. Along the bottom, we have Dave Murray's weather forecast usually, but they changed their server over there at Fox 2, so we might not have the weather for 2 or 3 days, but we'll get it back up. Also, you got audio on iTunes down in the corner, and we return to the airwaves in less than 10 days now on Monday, October 25th. On the Big 550 KTRS, we'll start at 10 o'clock every morning and go until 1 o'clock. Thanks for the kind words. I'm trying to get back to everybody who sent a message. We are up to 2,028 friends on Facebook. Good place to go. We can keep you updated as to what's going on. By the way, early next week, we are going to start to unveil some of the details about the new show on the Big 550 KTRS. Everybody's going, well, who? You keep saying we. Who's going to be on with you? I'm going to tell you most of that stuff very early next week. We will tell you here, and we will tell you on Facebook. All right, off we go. St. Louis University basketball scandal. They're suspending student athletes without any charges being filed. They are demanding apology letters from something that they say they didn't do, and that the circuit attorney, Jennifer Joyce, investigated and said she couldn't find anything wrong, but the university is still saying we want apology letters. How big a lawsuit do you want over there at St. Louis University? You guys' pictures are on the billboards, for Christ's sakes. All right. Normally, I wouldn't do a story like this early on. You know, we like to build. We like to build here on the Daily Dose. Basic show business principle. Start slow and build. But I'm shooting my wad early today because it's just such a great story. It was 7 years ago today. Do you remember where you were on this date? 7 years ago today. You may have been watching the Cubs. Yeah, here in St. Louis, you were watching the Cubs. You know why? Because they were playing the Florida Marlins. And even the Cardinal fans here in St. Louis said, the Cardinals aren't in it. Cubs haven't won for almost 100 years. Go ahead, let them win, for God's sakes. And as a matter of fact, a very good friend of mine by the name of Brad Brown, who at that time was working for Anheuser-Busch, called me up and he said, you know, I know that your dad started taking you to baseball games at Wrigley Field when you were just a little kid, 3 years old as a matter of fact. And you've been going all that time, and I know you guys are Cub fans. I got 2 tickets, Anheuser-Busch tickets, by the way. I got 2 tickets for Game 6 and Game 7. Why don't you grab your dad, have him drive down from Wisconsin, you guys go up there and go see the ball game. And so I got 2 primo tickets for Game 6. The Bartman game, which, by the way, happened about 25 rows in front of us and 1 section over. It happened right in front of us. As a matter of fact, after the incident, the Chicago police had to come down and grab him and take him out, and they were surrounding him. They had a thing over his head. They had jackets and stuff over his head, and then there was a circle around the Chicago police to protect the Chicago police who were protecting Bartman. Now, you know, I always tell people, because Roboski always gives me a hard time, you know, and, Cub fan. Well, you know what, and this is the truth, by the way, you can only have your heart broken so many times before you finally say, I'm done. Now, I'm a fan of Wrigley Field. And those old Cubs teams in the 1960s that I grew up on, sure, I mean, what sort of a baseball fan would I be if I didn't, you know, hold close to my heart those childhood memories? I'm a fan of Wrigley Field now. I'm not so sure about the Cubs. All right, let's get to the news. Police arrested a man for trespassing at Paris Hilton's house. Whatever happened to the good old days where, you know, guys wanted to get inside of her instead of her property? David Arquette now says that he is begging Courtney Cox to take him back. And with the release of George Michael from prison, that makes 2 people that we know of who are begging for Cox. The election is only 19 days away right now, and people are losing their minds. People are losing their minds. As a matter of fact, up in Wilmette, Illinois, which is a northern suburb of Chicago, and this is like the equivalent of Ladue. Okay, it's very, very fancy up there in Wilmette. So an 85-year-old man walks over to his neighbor and pulls 2 yard signs for a political candidate, pulls them right out of the ground and tosses them out in the street. Well, the neighbors come out. Turns out it's a 60-year-old woman and a 92-year-old guy. During the ensuing tug of war, The man allegedly hit the woman in the side of the head and shoulder. Then he lost his grip on the sign, fell backwards over his walker, police said. 1/3 of men say that if they wanted to bump uglies with any politician, 1/3 of men said they'd choose Sarah Palin. Yeah, I mean, it's nice to look at. I think if she would just shut up, she would be fun to hump. 32% of the vote, by the way. That might be more of the vote than she'll get in the actual election when she runs. She beat out Delaware's up-and-coming Tea Party Wiccan, Christine O'Donnell, who's also pleasant-looking, 22%. New Jersey's Teresa Ruiz got 18%. And here's the shocker. This is unbelievable. Hillary Clinton beat out Condoleezza Rice, 6% to 5%. If I'm Condoleezza Rice right now, I'm looking for a bridge to jump off of. Survey also found that 87% of the single people say that they would happily date someone outside of their political party. I was single for 9 years between marriages, and I had Republicans, and it's great. 51% say they would date a member of the Tea Party. Hey, look, you got to draw the line somewhere, huh? Think that one out before you start. By the way, there's a young woman, a broadcaster here in St. Louis by the name of Dana Lash, and she's going to be on with Bill Maher on Real Time on HBO Friday night. This comes as a bit of a surprise to some people. It's going to be very interesting because a lot of people, even in her own camp, are not sure that she is ready to handle herself in a situation like this. Now, if he jumps on her, she's going to look like a victim. But if he lets her just run at the mouth, then he's going to look bad, and people are going to say, well, she shouted him down, and she held her own. So I mean, either way, it's hard to imagine her being able to lose on Friday night on HBO in this situation. I don't know how she can lose, or do I? Then again, you could live in Ohio. You could live in Ohio, where your choices are Linda McMahon from the WWF or WWE or whatever the hell it is, the wrestling foundation, where there's a world of steroids and misogyny, or you could vote for the guy who completely made up a story about fighting in the Vietnam War. Welcome to Ohio. All right, let me just tell you something. I'm not going to say I'm predicting this, but I'm going to be the least surprised guy in the world if KMOX ends up going 24-hour sports. I have reasons for saying that. Well, what would you do with the Voice of St. Louis? What about Debbie and Doug? Well, they moved them over to FM because KACK is falling apart. And there is precedent for this. This has happened in other markets where they've taken their big, 50,000 watt blowtorch news talk information station and put it on FM. It's actually happened in a couple of big markets. And you got, I don't want to get too deeply into it. That having been said, the most underreported story a couple of weeks ago, when the Cardinals announced that they were going back to KMOX, is the fact that they also signed the St. Louis Blues to a 5-year deal. And they also have Mizzou. Why do you need the Cardinals, the Blues, and Mizzou, and you're still trying to do all this other stuff? In Miami, they had the same situation. And the radio station down there had the Miami Dolphins and the Miami Heat, and they bumped the Heat for a Dolphins game. And the Heat is suing the station, saying, hey, we got a contract for us to be on the air. You chose the other team. Lawsuits. Jackass 3D is coming out this weekend. Rams kicker Josh Brown is in this movie. He kicks a football into the belly of a fat guy. Everybody's got to be famous for something. All right. I never worked in a restaurant, but almost everybody I know at some point or another has worked in a restaurant. Triple C worked at a couple of the big restaurants. I don't want to say which one, but she was also a bartender and stuff like that. Well, according to some restaurant employees, here are the 4 things that make them mad that we do as customers. Number 1, moving tables and chairs. They especially hate it when you pull up an extra chair and put it right in a spot where the wait staff normally have to walk through. Number 2, expecting them to celebrate your birthday. If it's Hooters or TGI Fridays or Chuck E. Cheese, maybe. But if you're at a nice restaurant, don't ask them to sing happy birthday or give you a free dessert. It's not like if you pull into a gas station, you don't get free gas on your birthday, for Christ's sake. 4 things that we do that make restaurants mad. Number 3, arriving late for a reservation and expecting to still get a table. Corcoran, a party of 3, and we were supposed to be here at 8 o'clock, and I know it's 10 after 9, but can you find, Number 4, calling the restaurant during lunch or dinner. This one, the first 3 I could sort of figure out. This one, I wouldn't have guessed. The busiest times of the day for most restaurants are between 12:30 and 1:30, and between 7 and 9 at night. So if you want to make a reservation or ask questions, call some other time. And if you need to know their hours or their menu or directions or something like that, get online. All right, Money Magazine just released its annual list of the 100 best jobs in the United States. You wouldn't believe this. Out of the top 100, obstetrician gynecologist came in last. You would think any sort of a doctor would be, money in the bank. The list is based on pay, future job growth, and quality of life. While OBGYNs make good money now, a median of $210,000, the job got bad scores for stress, future growth, and future salary growth. Software architect was the number 1 answer. It's followed by physician assistant, management consultant, physical therapist, and environmental engineer. I know physical therapists, and they're always complaining about the situation because, just like a lot of things, they were downsized and conglomerates, and they're getting directives from people they'd never even met and stuff like that. I don't know. That's what it says, though. The job with the highest expected job growth in the next 10 years is biomedical engineer. And the job with the best pay is anesthesiologist. Hello, Janine. Radio TV personality was not found anywhere on the list. Got an email from a guy yesterday who said, "Thank you, JC, for being on the Daily Dose yesterday and not talking about those miners in Chile. I'm sick of it already." Yeah, well, they're finally getting. I got to figure they're probably, and somebody's writing a screenplay already. Benicio del Toro's phone is ringing somewhere, or Mario Lopez, or even Edward James Olmos from Miami Vice. That 50-year-old Yanni Barrios, he's the miner who, his affair was exposed while he's deep in the hole. And his wife was there holding vigil, and the girlfriend. So he gets out yesterday morning, no sign of the wife, only the mistress. I guess he got a Chile reception from her. And they keep saying, what was it like down there? And the guy said, all we saw way down there was rocks and, of course, President Obama's approval ratings. All right, TV Tonight. I don't know how the hell they're going to do this. Remember a couple of years ago when ER was like the big show, and George Clooney said, let's do the show live. And you're like, wow, with all that quick cutting and all that movement and all those cameras, how the hell are they going to do it? Well, they did it, and they pulled it off. And I think my recollection is it was like there wasn't even like one missed shot or any flaws or a blown line or anything like that. They were going to try it on 30 Rock tonight. The plot line, by the way, is about people forgetting Tina Fey's character's 40th birthday. So 30 Rock going live tonight on NBC. It's worth watching. I don't know if I mentioned this the other day, but The Office, which is a show that I'm sorry I don't get. I've tried to watch it numerous times. I just don't get it. I like everybody on the show, including what's her name from Webster, but anyhow, they're going to do a Glee episode. That I will watch. That sounds funny already. All right, we'll be back tomorrow with the 10 signs that you are an annoying airline passenger, and one of them I couldn't disagree with more. That's tomorrow here on the Daily Dose. Again, we return to the airwaves on Monday, October 25th on the Big 550 KTRS. Starting at 10 o'clock in the morning, we go until 1, and get on Facebook, and we can sort of keep in touch on that deal. I'll bring you some updates, and as I said, we're going to start revealing some of the detailed information early next week. That's it, the Daily Dose for Thursday, October 14th, 2010, a cooperative venture with Mind Active in beautiful downtown Brentwood. In the meantime, we've beaten this one to death. Have a good one. See you later. Bye.